Once again, back, it's the incredible Dale Valor's Inner Game Podcast. I'm rapper turned dating coach Dale Valor, your inner game wingman. Listen, here's the deal. If you're new to this podcast, what we're talking about is inner game. What is inner game? Inner game is the relationship that you have with you. If all the other relationships in your life are suffering, in large part, and usually it's due to the relationship that you have with you sucks, right? So if you don't like yourself, how can you expect anybody else to either? So here's the deal, man. We're going to go deep on so many inner game concepts in this podcast. I really am glad that you're here. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you're a long timer, welcome back. And let's hop in.
So that was in 2020. So I'm going through all these surgeries and stuff. And I was just like, man, my body is just falling apart. Everything just kept failing. It had nothing to do with the cancer. It was just my body was just tired, exhausted.
Yeah.
Hernia surgeries. They took out 19 lipomas out of me. So I have these lipomas all over the place. One of the biggest things in 9/11 community, from what I understand, is male breast cancer. So I have a scar here and I got a scar here.
Yeah.
Taking these lipomas out. While I'm going through this, I saw a course on how to speak, public speaking and all of this. And I'm just getting back into this, right?
Yeah.
And he heard my story and he was just like, look, like, tell me he's critiquing my life. And I'm giddy like a little kid. I'm not starstruck over anything, but Mr. Brown has been a mentor online and tapes and all this stuff for decades.
Right. Yeah.
And here I have this guy critiquing my life. And I was just over the moon. And he's like, well, tell me. And I was like, I want 1 million people at my funeral. That was my mindset at that time. Mm-hmm. I'm dying. So let me start talking more online about all of this stuff. And he's just like, why do you want 1 million people at your funeral? I said, well, because then I would have influence tens of millions of people around the world. And he's like, how about this? How about influence the tens of millions around the world now?
Makes sense.
Because you're in it, right? You're in it and you can't see, man. You just can't see because you're in this chaos.
Yeah. And
then he's like, and just stay ahead of the chalk outline and you'll be fine, and tell your story. And I became a Power Voice speaker. I became one of his Power Voice speakers for those events. And, I owe the guy so much because he showed me compassion, empathy, but also, you can't sit in it, man, got to go. Yeah. And I was already going, getting back into life again. The pains were getting less, but my body was falling apart. So there was a whole bunch of confusion of like, what the hell is going on? And he was the catalyst. And then it was COVID, and I was stopped speaking online all over the place. There was an app called Clubhouse. I dominated in Clubhouse. And after a little bit, you're talking 500 to 1,000 people a day. Mm-hmm. And it just, it just kept going and going and going to where it is now. Yeah. And I get featured all over the world. And it's a humbling experience because, like I said before, I'm just a knucklehead from Jersey. And I never wanted to embrace the 9/11 story. I thought I'd get famous for like something stupid in business or something like that. I mean, that's how egotistical I was, right? And life brings you down to your knees, man. You got to stand back up again. And that's what I do every day. I wake up. There was some times where I'd wake up and just be like, I can't do this anymore, man. I just can't. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I'd just be like, I wish I would just die so my wife and daughter can move on.
Yeah.
Because it devastates your family, all of this stuff. And mentally, like, wears you down because it's a constant grind. Then I started learning it's okay not to be okay. You just can't sit there. And this is something that if you sit in it, it becomes your character. And it was my character for a very long time. I'm the sick guy. And I ain't that sick guy anymore. I'm sorry?
How is your health now?
I mean, I still have I still have GERDs. I still got PTSD. I still have, I'm still following this cancer stuff. But I don't pay attention to anything anymore. I just don't. I walk 5 to 7 miles a day. I had to learn how to re-walk again.
That's awesome.
I had to learn how to use my arm again. I had, from that surgery, my arm was like in a position for like 9 hours. I developed something called Saturday night palsy, where like my nerve in my arm just didn't want to work.
Okay.
So I had to relearn how to move your things that just keep chopping at you. And I look at it now as like one of the best experiences of my life. And would I want things to have been different? Absolutely. But they're not. This is just the circumstances.
Right.
You can't sit in those circumstances.
Yeah.
I won't. And I encourage people not to. And, again, people are going to be like, you don't know my story, and it's this, and it's that. And that's it. It's just the story that you're still sitting in. You have to dump that emotional attachment to it. And I'm not the best at this by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll outwork anybody. I'll do this 23 and a half hours a day. Yeah. I listen to tones. I listen to, the Silver Method. I listen to Joe Dispenza religiously. And studying epigenetics and understanding how the body is and how the body moves, and understanding like the only thing that we can control is this. This is the only real estate that we can own.
Yeah.
Because if you're not on top of your shit, on top of your game, right?
Yeah.
Mentally, then what happens spiritually? What happens emotionally? What happens physically? We start to lose it. And men, again, a bunch of chest pounders. We're driven to just be like, oh no, we can take it until you can't. I've had plenty of days, man, where it was just like I have no faith in myself. I didn't believe in myself anymore. And it was kind of like, and then my daughter would walk by, and I'd just be like, oh man, what am I doing to this girl? Or my wife would come in and just be like, she would have this look on her face. And it was just like, it was devastating.
Was there some type of an epiphany moment or something like a light bulb type of moment that you're like, enough's enough. Like, I got to do something here.
Dozens of them.
Light bulbs going on.
Yeah, man. It was like light after light after light after light after light.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting, and one day I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I got out of bed, and I was like, I can't feel my feet. I had peripheral neuropathy. And it was just like, I can't feel my feet. Like my legs aren't moving.
Mm-hmm.
The hell, man. And it was just like, okay, let me massage them. And after 15, 20 minutes, you start getting that feeling again. It's like, okay, let me stand up again. And that's what it is. It's these slow little things that we have to celebrate. And if we don't, we're screwed.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. If you could do it all over again, and today is, September 11, 2001, do you volunteer?
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. That's what's
I do.
Up.
And my wife would probably say the same thing, as well as my daughter. There was one incident that really broke my heart. Just came back from a doctor's or whatever. My wife and daughter are in the car, and something happened to this person in the car where I don't know if they passed out, whatever it is. Their car was just drifting. I just went around it. There were people that got out and stuff like that and were going. I just went around, and my wife was just like, what are you doing? You always stop.
Mm-hmm.
I just came out of this doctor's, and it was like, yeah, but you know what? When I did that, look what happened to me. And that broke my heart. And then I had to jump back on it again. It was like, no, man, okay. Next time you see something like that, stop. You pull over. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do. We condition ourselves. This pre-programming between 0 and 8 years old, right? The Jesuits say, show me the kid and I'll show you the man, show you the adult.
Yeah.
Because all we are is little children in adult bodies. And if we haven't emotionally controlled ourselves, our emotions are going to control us.
Yeah. No.
And I'm sitting here, I got ENT doctor, thoracic oncologist, hematology oncology, rehab, orthopedic. That was in 2 weeks. So it stops your life.
Yeah.
Because you have to make money. Right. But then you're not making money because you're focusing on living, surviving. And we've sold everything, man. We've sold everything. We went bankrupt, all of this crazy stuff. And we got compensated, but it was like, seriously? What you just gave me, I lost, 8 times over.
Right.
And, it took us so long to get tied into the medical part because that was wrought with fraud and just complete. I've never seen so many idiots running one thing. Just so many idiots. And every time there's a government something,
right?
There's a bunch of idiots running something all the time.
Just yesterday, man, I just made a move. Okay. I moved, I've lived in Detroit my whole life. Okay. And now I'm about an hour south of Cleveland. Okay. And I was like, all right, well, I gotta get a new driver's license. I need to get a new plate on my car and things like that. Do you know how many offices and how many people I had to talk to just to get a new driver's license and a license plate? And that's should be very simple. You know what I mean? I can't imagine, the channels that you have to go through dealing with all that.
Wait, it gets better, but yet there's more. You ever see that commercial?
You're right.
So as I'm going through all of this stuff, and because I'm just looking at the paper now, I'm going through all of this stuff, I was talking to a friend of mine, and something clicked or whatever, and phone went dead. Like, all right, charge it up tomorrow. Go to T-Mobile, find out that, no, I'm sorry. I had gotten a paper from T-Mobile saying that they gave my SIM card number out against my authorization. I didn't authorize it. I have the paper, T-Mobile. I'm in the middle of the lawsuit with them. All my shit was taken away. Everything that I owned intellectually, gone, wiped out. 25,000 email contacts. 22,000 emails gone. I had this one account for 20-something years, and everything was gone. Everything I did at publicity speaking, publicity summits, speaking at a hotel, Pennsylvania, Miami, LA, all my stuff was gone, as well as my 9/11 book, my years of notes, everything just gone. So I'm still going through that. As well as family issues as well. We all have things that we're going through every day.
Right.
We have to keep our shit tight. How do you do that? By falling apart. You have to fall apart. And I believe once you go through, like I said before, all the emotional, embarrassing situations, the humility, all the humbling experiences that you have to go through, you'll just create this being, this unstoppable being. Do I hurt every day? Absolutely. But I'm not even concentrating on that shit anymore. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, and it was probably just a couple months ago, where when they went into my side, they went in through the ribs, right? So they went along one rib line. But at each point, right, they went through. So it just wiped the nerves, the nerve pain was just tremendous. And people ask me, what did it feel like? And this is for 6 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you leaned against a sharp table, okay, and you put your ribs against a sharp table, and you moved your arm, that was the pain, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Man.
And it didn't matter if I had to go to the store. It didn't matter if I had to go to the doctor. It didn't matter if I was trying to do something to make cash and all. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's when I started really getting into epigenetics and understanding, you got to shut this down. You got to shut this down. But I'm not new to this. I've been doing it my whole life.
Yeah.
I was the guy that lived in the bush in Jamaica with no electricity and no water just to find out what he could take. I was the guy that lived in an abandoned house while I was renovating in Jersey City after Jamaica to see how much more crap I could take. In the middle of the winter with no windows, no electricity, and no water, just to see what I could take. So I believe that I was developed to take this and to be able to come on shows and explain to people that this is it. This is the game, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a mental game. And we have to work on ourselves, because if we're not, somebody else is going to be working on you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. I love it. What would you tell, somebody who, maybe they walk up to you and they, know your story or, whatever. And, they're going through, maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe they're going through, their financials just bottomed out, or, some type of real emotional, life altering type of situation, and it's fresh. I mean, it's fresh, like just happened. What would you tell that individual who's like, what should I do, Craig? What would you tell them?
Sit in it, embrace it. Don't run away from it. Like you were saying before, you keep pushing it away and it's going to come back even harder. Right?
Yeah.
But this is how we're programmed, because it's fight, flight, or freeze. Right? So it's like you're being bombarded with so much stuff that if you just sat in it, and it's hard, man. Like I said before, it's hard. This is not an easy life. To be completely devastated all the time, just one thing after the next, one thing after the next, one thing after the next. All you can do, man, is surrender. I'm not a God person. I've done too many psychedelics. I understand. I too much DMT and ayahuasca and LSD to free this shit, and you have to go through it. You have to. It's not even a need and a want. It's a have to.
Yeah.
I have to stand up again. I have to shake whatever I'm going through off. But you have to sit in it first. You have to examine the wound. You have to take the Band-Aid off, examine it, right? Clean it up, sit in it, watch it scar. And now look at yourself as the badass because of what you just went through.
Yeah, man. I absolutely love that. And the scar is not the wound. You know what I mean? The scar is just simply a representation of what happened. It's not the actual wound itself. Too many people, like, I love what you said about examining. Too many people are like, oh, I've got this wound. All right, let me cut my arm off. You know what I mean? And now, what do you have? Now you're missing an arm, and you still have a wound.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. On 9/11, I got to tell you this story. I've been dying to tell you this. So on 9/11, I wake up, all right, and me and at the time, my fiance, who's now my wife, we were staying with, I was staying with her family, okay, and down in Ohio, close to where I'm at now, and I get up, I come downstairs. My mother-in-law is watching TV, and she's like, "Oh yeah, a plane hit the, it's all over the news. A plane hit one of the towers, And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And I'm not thinking like, whatever, plane crash. You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't even on my radar, really. Then as I'm sitting and watching, I'm like, this is kind of nuts. Then the second plane hits, and it's like, oh, okay, something crazy's going down, right? And as the day, I was down there, I was kind of staying there like on weekends, but I was living up in Detroit, and I'm thinking to myself, like, man, should I like go back, or should I stay here? Because like, this is all crazy, but at the same time, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I won't even be able to get back, to Detroit. And then if you remember, gas prices went sky high that day. You know what I mean? People like price gouging, and I'm driving through town and I'm seeing gas at like $8 a gallon. And it's like, what, like went from like 80 cents to like $8, and like, what is going on? And that's when it hit me. I'm like, all right, I probably should get back to Detroit, because I might be stuck here without any clothes. And you know what I mean? So like, let me head back. So I will never forget this, Craig, as long as I live. It's one of the most powerful displays of just, power that I've ever seen in my life. So I'm driving up 77, Okay, I'm basically between Canton, Ohio, and Akron, and everybody's obviously listening to the news. Traffic was light, even though it was like rush hour time of day, and it was very somber. As I'm sure you remember, and in the distance, there's a big Air Force base in Ohio, and in the distance, you could just see a line of black, and it was just getting closer and closer and closer. It was just line after line after line of cargo planes, fighter jets. It cast a shadow on the it was like it was nighttime practically, and everybody on the freeway stopped. I've never seen this happen outside of an accident or something like that. Everybody on the freeway stopped. People were getting out of their cars and just looking up. Because those cargo planes fly kind of low, and the ground was just like reverberating.
Rumble.
Yeah. And it was just like, all I could think is like, man, somebody's about to get fucked up.
I remember one day I was just standing on this pile and this jet flew by. And I was talking to this guy because we were also on bucket brigade. Buckets everywhere. And I just looked at him and I said, "What do you think?" And he was like, "It's a couple days too late."
Yeah.
Man, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. No doubt, man.
I don't want people to be late for their lives. I'm sitting here and I'm laughing about this, and I get this shit all over my walls, right? I have all these podcasts and this and doctors and lawsuits and interviews, and I felt so lost for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I'm not lost anymore.
That's
what I realized was I was never lost. I was just stuck in here. I was stuck in this story.
Right.
This on repeat. It was on repeat. And I think when you could tell stories without that emotional attachment, that's when everything kicks in.
Yeah.
That's when you become this beacon of light, where you are now in your own power, where you are sitting there. And I can't tell you how many people I know died from illnesses in 9/11. I was in the 9/11 community for a few years. I had to walk away. It's just so mentally taxing.
What was taxing about it? I mean, I think I know, but I would just like to hear it from you.
Well, you're talking to somebody as they're going through whatever procedures or whatever, and their wife just left because they couldn't take it anymore, which happens all the time, right? Or husband walks away from the wife or whatever, because it's so devastating. And then your self-worth is in the shitter. And again, gotta stand up, take the hit, keep taking the hit, keep taking it.
Yeah.
Until you just until you surrender, man. It's the only thing I can say. Is you just I felt like there's a meme. There's a guy walking around, an older dude, and he's got like his hand in his pockets or whatever, and behind him is just like his house is burning down. And he's got a smile on his face because he's used to it. That's how I felt for the longest time. Because it's just one devastating thing after the next. And now it's like when things actually happen to me, I will tell you a real quick story. So I was going for some medical thing, some test. And the doctor came out after my x-rays and she's like, "Have you ever had a bad x-ray?" That was one of my epiphany moments because I was studying epigenetics at that time and everything. And I was just like, whatever she's going to say is not going to alter my state. I refused to, because it's just always devastating news, devastating. I was like, if she tells me I'm terminal and I'm going to die in 12 minutes, for the next 12 minutes, I'm going to have a smile on my face. I'm going to go out kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And what was so devastating was the bad x-ray, which she didn't have my file. So when she took the x-ray and saw that the two lobes were not there or clouded, She's like, oh, this guy, he's got cancer, whatever. You didn't even have my paperwork. You didn't even see that they took that from surgery. And this is the reason why I tell people, just because somebody says something to you, don't take it for 100%. Just don't.
Yeah.
Don't react. Don't have that knee-jerk reaction. This is what we have to work on. Just as a species, man.
Yeah.
We have to work on ourselves. We have to be a community of like-minded individuals.
Well, the name of the podcast is Dale Valor's Inner Game Podcast, right? And the way I define inner game is the relationship that you have with you, right? Yeah. So how can any of the relationships in your life flourish if the relationship you have with yourself sucks? How can you expect anybody to respect you, to like you, to love you, if you don't respect, like, or love yourself? Absolutely. You know what I mean? So everything that you're saying, is in my mind is just hitting the nail on the head, because, if everything is a knee-jerk reaction to bad news, bad circumstances, bad situations, one, you're not embracing it. That's obviously you're trying to, well, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? You're scrambling.
Fending it off.
Right. Instead of just owning it and be like, all right, I'm a big proponent of Stoic philosophy.
Yeah, me too.
And that's Stoicism 101. It's just like, look, it's not going to pay you any mind or any good to wish things are different. The wishful thinking it's a fugazi. It's nothing, because it's not going to change anything.
It's a VIG. It's a VIG. That's the VIG that you pay.
Right, man. And the name of your book, right?
Everybody pays a VIG, right? Because it is. This is one of the things that I tell people is, we all pay a VIG. And people are like, well, what is a VIG? It's street tax. Whether you win or lose with a bookie, you still got to pay them something.
You still got to pay.
You still got to pay something, right? So that's the VIG. So here's the thing. If you're concentrating on your business and you're not concentrating on your family, your family's going to go by the wayside. That's the VIG that you're going to pay. Yep. If you can incorporate those two, that's great. But what we do is we show people how to become the house, because the house always wins.
Yep.
So we have to sit here in our temple. It's called the temple for a reason. Right. We have to sit there. Hey, people all the time, I don't know how to meditate. I have all these thoughts. Good, keep doing it. But no buts about it, man. Like, well, how many times do I have to do it? Well, double whatever you thought previously, because now you have the mindset that you want it quick. Shit's not going to work, man. You got to sit in tears. You have to sit in that pain, suffering, misery, self-loathing. Sit in it.
Yeah, man. I tell people like this. If you're asking, how many times do I have to do this in order for whatever I'm holding on to be gone, you have to, that's the wrong question. The right question is, should I just keep doing this? And the answer is yes, you should. You have to be totally okay with it never being gone. Yeah. Like, you just have to be okay with it just being a part of who you are, or not a part of who you are, but a part of you, like, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I'm struggling with. You have to be okay with owning that and embracing that and it never leaving. It's never going to leave. I liken it to like a fire. A fire, what does a fire do? A fire burns out eventually. At some point, it's going to run out of fuel, and even the sun in the sky, at some point, it's going to burn out, and you have to be okay with it existing in order for it to burn and then inevitably burn out, putting a calendar date. Oh yeah. The 17th of March, you're fine. Like, Like that's absurd, you know?
Well, that's what happens when you're sick.
Yeah.
People looking at you. People like when I shave, I look like 10 years younger. And people are like, you don't look like what you've been through. I was like, I don't even know how to take that.
Like, what am I supposed to look like?
What does that mean, you know? And I don't know if I answered your question before. I went off on a tangent about the people in 9/11. I was just thinking about that. I was like, ooh, I think I had another brain.
I don't remember what it was.
It's just like constant flow, right?
No, I get you, man. I do the same kind of stuff all the time, man. But we're running a little bit short on time here. So, you know, first and foremost, I love your story, man. This has been a fantastic episode. Like I'm so glad that you were able to come on and we were able to talk about this, you know. But I want people like, look, guys, if you're going through something, you're struggling with something, or you already had something happen in your life. I don't care if it was yesterday or if it was 10 years ago or